Okay, I think we're ready to roll, Dan. So um, I'm Amy Towers, and we've also got Daniel McConville here. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, how you going?
Good. So Dan and I thought we'd do a bit of an impromptu conversation. Well, we're reenacting, I guess, to an extent, a conversation that we had yesterday. So the idea behind this was that Dan and I, we're both run our own work health and safety consulting businesses, and we used to work together back about 10 or more years ago.
More than 10 years.
Yeah, 12 years ago. And we've stayed connected and obviously bounce ideas off each other, being both independents. It's nice to have someone to share ideas with and check in every now and then. So yesterday we were having a chat about a number of things. And we both found out that we had both had a discussion with someone who had recently been moved to a working from home environment that was struggling a little bit. So it got us reflecting on our own experiences. So we've both been working from home for a long time now, or mostly from home, but we're out and about a lot as well. But it got us thinking about our own mental health. And we both had stories to share too. So, and it made us think that, you know, there's probably lots of people out there now who not struggling, but might be finding the transition a little bit difficult, or maybe not yet. It might be, you know, in months to come if it continues. Yeah, so I don't know if you want to add to that. Oh, sorry. I don't know if you want to add to that, Dan.
It's also too, I think some people are going to be overwhelmed by the whole working from home scenario. Is that it's something that it's different, they're not accustomed to it, and yeah, they'll just be overwhelmed with things like trying to separate work from life. Now that they're all in the one spot.
Yes.
So, and yeah, and part of our discussion yesterday was also around the loneliness.
Yes.
Of working alone, and I think that's probably where a lot of the issues will arise very shortly.
Yes. So we thought we would just maybe, Dan, if you're happy for me to just ask you a few questions about your experience over the years and I guess the highs and lows of working from home or being, I guess, moving from it. We've both worked in a team environment, and then sort of moving away from that. And whilst we still get to engage with people on a daily basis, it's not our team. And even if where we're having that, I guess, the physical disconnection in some way or another.
Yeah.
So how long ago did you start working from home?
Almost 10 years. So I think it's about 9.5 years that I've been working for myself. But yeah, predominantly there's a lot of days where you do work from home. So that coming from that team environment where, say, like my last employer was Willis, but where we worked at CGU, you know, we probably had half a dozen people in that team, and we communicated pretty much on a daily basis. We had physical contact on a daily basis, and you go from that to nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a period of adjustment that I think people that certainly I went through as well. But yeah, probably I think most of my issues have been in the last probably 2 years with working from home and just having that disconnect with people.
And what does that what does that look like for you? So you said, you know, so I mean, that's a long time to be working from home and then to start feeling, and we're not saying that this is because you're working from home that you might be feeling in a certain way, but you know, maybe it enhances those feelings because you're working on your own. So what would you say, what are some of the effects or the feelings that you've experienced over the last, I'm just going to pause the recording for a second. Okay, so we're back on. So what are some of the thoughts and the feelings that you've experienced over, say, the last couple of years, which maybe might not be ideal?
Probably the big one is that I just wasn't motivated. Which, when you work for yourself, is you need to be motivated, because if you don't work, you don't get paid.
Yes.
But yeah, I just wasn't. I lacked motivation. A task that would take me, say, a day, like writing a report, I could stretch that out over a week. And it wasn't until I got to the deadline that was almost like my motivation to finish things or get things done. And I just wasn't really like that when I first started.
So there was a change in the behaviour that you noticed that wasn't, I mean, you haven't always performed like that, so you recognise that as a change.
No. And I noticed too that I felt anyway, I mean, not that anyone commented on it, but I thought the quality wasn't there either. So looking back on some of those things that I'd done, I just felt they could have been done better.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, and they're probably the two big things.
Yeah.
But just that feeling of not, I don't know, just couldn't bother doing anything. Yeah, it was just something that I'd never experienced before.
Yeah. And how, I mean, for those people who are working at home, who might have people around them, obviously their families at this time could possibly be at home while they're working. I guess it doesn't always fix the situation of you feeling like a bit stuck, because we were talking yesterday about having, when we used to work in an office, you get to turn around and have a joke with someone, and that might happen multiple times of the day, or someone says, do you want to go grab a coffee? Whereas you don't get that interaction at home where you can offload, or you know, I would turn to you and say, what do you think about this situation?
Yeah.
Give, you know, your 2 cents worth. We don't get that anymore. So how do you, what are some of the things that you did after you recognized that change in, I guess, your thoughts and feelings? How did you overcome that? What were some things that you did?
Well, actually, I went and saw someone about it, on the advice of my family doctor. And yeah, and we actually had a good chat about it. And he felt that what I was, what they diagnosed it with was a mild case of depression, but it had been brought on by the psychologist that said there was limited brain activity. But he did explain that. He then said it was more around brain novelty. So the brain likes novel things, it likes different experiences, it likes all of that. And I just got to a period of where I didn't have that anymore. Now, some of that he did think came from a situation where I, about 3 years ago, spent 3 months working in Taiwan. And it was just fantastic, great event, done really well. And working with people from all around the world, and it was just fantastic. He felt there was a bit of come down from that I'd just come back to my normal day, or my normal routine, if you like, normal workplace. And I just didn't have that that novelty or enough change in my structure, I suppose. And I just become bored. And with that, then the brain became inactive. Well, not inactive, but
reducing capacity.
Yeah, yeah. And there was no motivation. So, so to overcome that, part of the steps was to change that the workplace up. So one of the things that I would do was I might go and spend the morning in a cafe. Now you can't do that now. So, and I found that was fantastic. I'd get more work done in 2.5 hours sitting in a cafe than I would 5 hours at home. But so what I've done now to try and combat that is work in different areas of the house, or if it's a nice day, go and sit outside. So it's just a different environment. Like even simple things like outside, different noises, different sounds. You know, you got a dog out the back, so yeah, to try and not fall back into that same mundane, boring routine. And the other thing that I had struggled to do, or I got into a really bad habit of not doing, was separating work from life. So things that I do now is the office that I work in, I'll tend to close the door. It's got a couple of sliding doors in there, so I'll tend to close those over at night, or you know, even on the weekend.
Yes.
So it's almost telling yourself that that's off limits now till, you know, Monday or whenever, and you spend your time in the rest of the house. And I think that's important for people now who've never worked from home, is to find that quiet place if they can, but also make sure that it's a place that they can shut off from.
Yes.
Because there's nothing, and I found it, even days sitting in my study, just coming and sitting in there, I'd automatically switch off. And to the point where I just hated the look of the room or the feel of the room, and I didn't want to. I knew I had to go in there, and you'd go in there, but yeah, nothing would get done.
You weren't productive.
No.
A classic example of presenteeism. You're there, but nothing's happening.
Yeah. The lights are on,
being produced,
but certainly no one was at home.
Yeah.
And that's probably part of our conversation yesterday. Is that's my concern at the moment, is that I battled that for 2 years, didn't even know it was an issue until I went and spoke to someone about it. There are going to be so many people going through that at the moment, that, yeah, and we could be doing this for 6 months. And for people like us, it's probably easier to adjust. But for someone who's never done it before, they could be going back to work in terrible shape in 6 months' time.
Yeah.
The other thing that I have tried to do more of, and it was around the point you mentioned earlier about staying connected. It's probably one thing I'd never done. I always found, I don't know, a bit odd, I suppose. So just to ring you for you know, a 10-minute chat. Knowing that, you know, as I said before, we don't work, we don't get paid. So that's 10 minutes that, you know, neither of us are getting paid for. And I've probably got half a dozen people that I have started to do that with now. Is just to ring or send them a text and go, you know, have you got time for a chat? So, you know.
And making sure too, I think it's a good idea to, if you can't think about, you know, or you're thinking about, oh, okay, I'll just ring people, be careful about who you're choosing to ring to, because some people can be a wet blanket and bring a negative vibe too. So if you need a bit of an uplift or just a little bit of a vent or just a laugh, you've got to, I think, select someone who's going to give you that energy over the phone. We always end up, sometimes we can get quite serious, but we always end up having a laugh. So, and it's nice.
And we have a vent, and that's, I think that's important as well, because you do that at work.
That's actually interesting, because I did a whole piece on venting. And because some people think it's unproductive, but I remember reading this Harvard Business Review article from this organizational psychiatrist, and he was talking about the benefits of venting. And even though it's really disgusting, he said when he was at medical school and they were taught how to treat an abscess. And he said, if you just go and treat the abscess by giving medication, it's not going to work. He said, what you have to do is you have to release the pus first and let it all ooze out. I know it's gross, but it's just stuck with me. And I thought it was a really good analogy. So you need to release that first, and then you treat the patient with medication, and then, you know, it should resolve. And he said it's the same with venting. If someone's feeling stressed, instead of just trying to fix their problem, you need to listen to them first, listen to what's happening inside, try and understand that and be empathetic towards that, and then help them come to a resolution. Don't just jump into fix-it mode. So I think, you and I haven't really discussed venting too much, but it's something that I looked into a lot last year, mostly venting in the workplace, and is it negative or positive? But yeah, that was an article that really stuck with me, and I thought, oh wow, it's, you know, it pays to listen, and then to, if someone wants it, to help guide them into, well, how then do you fix that?
Yeah. So do you want to talk about your experience?
It's my time.
Have you got any more questions for me?
No, actually, just something that you said yesterday when we were chatting, it's really stuck in my head, is how you were, I mean, I love hearing your story, Dan, because, I would never have picked that. We've been speaking over the last 2 years, and I wouldn't have known that, that you felt like that. I thought you were super motivated. So if you're responsible for people who are working at home, even through the discussions, you might not be able to pick up on that. So I just would never have picked that until we were talking about some stuff yesterday. But yeah, there was something that you said, I was like, oh wow, yes, I've definitely done that before, but it hasn't been consistent. It was where you were sitting, I hope you're happy to share this, where you're sitting at within your office in the window, and you'd see the school kids go by.
Right where I am now.
Yeah. Do you want to share that? Because I think that's...
I'd sit here like this.
Yeah.
And look out the window, and it'd be 8:30 in the morning, and we've got a high school at the end of our street, and the kids would, you'd see them all walking down, going to school, and it's almost like you'd flick a switch and I'd still be sitting there like this, and at 3:30 in the afternoon they'd be walking back up the street, and I'd just be sitting there like, what have I done today? Have not achieved a thing. And that's what my days felt like.
Did you reckon? How long did that bit go on for? Was that part of the 2 years that you were?
Yeah, that'd be 2 years. And
Did you
initially, I just put it
think?
down
Yeah.
to I just need a good night's sleep. And if I have a good night's sleep, I'll be right.
Mm.
But it was more than that, and it was becoming more than that. And so yeah, and it wasn't until I went to my family doctor to get results of blood tests and all that sort of stuff, and then right at the end she asked me, was there anything else that I can help you with? And I just blurted it out and said, I'm sick of being tired, I'm sick of not being motivated, I'm just...
Tell us what you really said.
I said, I just can't be fucked. I can't be fucked. And she went, oh, okay. And then drilled down into how long have you felt like this, and why has it taken until now to do something about it? And at that time, a well-known football personality in Melbourne had just passed away, had suffered for years with mental health, and people were bringing up on the radio and saying he was a great bloke and he helped me with this and da-da-da-da-da. And a few people had just rung and said, yeah, they were just tired the whole time and had no motivation, and went and saw someone about it and realised that they were suffering from depression. And of course, straight away I was, well, that's not me, I just need a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I went to the doctor, and then she asked me had I contemplated suicide. And I said, no way, definitely not. And she said, I'm going to ask you that question again, and I want you to think about it. And so she asked me again, and I said, no, look, I haven't. But it was the wake-up call that could be one. You've got an issue, and yes, and it's diagnosed as a minor or mild issue. Yes. But untreated, this is where it could get to, and that scared the shit out of me. So yeah, so she asked me would I go and speak to someone, and so I did, and that's probably where I got to now. Yeah.
And how do you, was it an instant improvement or was it a gradual for you? Oh, obviously everyone's different, but did you know?
No, there was a bit like a bit of a sugar fix. So at the start there was, an instant improvement, and then it started to plateau out. But there's still some things that I'm very conscious of and aware of situations of not getting myself into. Things like, so if I can, not that I want to avoid the workplace that I'm in now, but if I'm in a better workplace or a better working environment. So sometimes when I finish training courses in the city, if I've got an hour up my sleeve, or rather than come home and work or come back to my office, which is at home, I'll sit in the training room and log on and do an hour's work then, and then come home. Because I know that if I come home, if I come home, I'll just
stare out that window.
yeah, and that's So they're the things that I'm trying to avoid, and I suppose that was one of the messages I tried to get across earlier to people who are in that situation, working from home, who've never done it before, and sort of start to hit that brick wall. Is that you don't want your place of work to turn into somewhere where you don't want to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially for the next 3 months or however long it could be, where that has to be your workplace. You don't have an option to go somewhere else.
That's right. That's right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's great. I mean, that's it. I think it's so important just to hear, and it's, you know, for you, it might have been, um, you said mild, but there must be so many people feeling like that. And just to hear your experiences, um, whilst it didn't result in anything too severe, that must make people, when they hear that. I know when I hear other people's stories, I think, oh gosh, thank God it's not only me.
Yeah.
You feel a connection with someone when you hear
Yeah.
them. They're a bit more human, and that they have, that it's not all glitz and glamour all the time. So yeah.
And it's interesting. One of the, because I know you said to me yesterday when we were going through this, oh, why didn't you tell me about it? I don't know. And I don't know why. I don't. I know that I could have, but I don't know whether you don't want to burden people with that. Where I was quite happy to sit in the room with a complete stranger and tell him my life story.
Yeah, you're too considerate.
I don't know. I don't know what. I know I should have.
Yeah.
I know that things might have been different, or I might not have put myself through, 2 years of just can't be bothered. That's probably one of the things is, why didn't I? Why didn't I do something? But why didn't I,
Yeah.
talk to someone about it?
I mean, I said this to you yesterday. I felt the same when I went through a bit of a rough patch last year. I felt like I didn't do, that there wasn't anything that really happened to me that could justify why I was feeling like it.
Yeah.
And I had some friends that were going through some really awful experiences. And I would compare myself to them, and I thought, gosh, they're going through some really rough times at the moment. I've got a happy and healthy family life. My work's thriving. I shouldn't feel like this. And I felt like I was being a bit of a sook. And so I just couldn't make sense of it myself. Yeah, I just thought I shouldn't feel like that, because I don't have anything happening in my life at the moment that should make me feel like that. So just sort of.
So what did you do about it then? But actually, before you answer that, had you ever felt like that at any other stage before in your life?
No, and you know what? I would sit there and think, have I always been like this and I just haven't realised it? And I was really trying to reflect. My memory's not great with sort of life experiences, like the major ones I remember. But I was thinking, I wonder, I can't remember ever feeling like this, but maybe I have, and I've just sort of blocked it out. And then I just kept thinking, what's wrong with me? Why am I thinking like this? Why am I so down? I don't think I had. Like, I'd obviously had, times where I'd been upset, but I was really low in my head, and it scared me.
Yeah.
It really actually scared me, because I was so in my own head, and I just couldn't remember a time where I felt like that. So similar to what you were saying, you were concerned about where it could go. That's exactly how I was feeling.
Yeah.
Like, gosh, if it gets worse than this.
And your motivation levels?
I couldn't, I remember saying, because I ended up seeing a cognitive behaviour therapist through Beyond Blue's New Access program. It was free at the time in Queensland. So I did video conferencing with him. He was amazing. Once a week for 6 weeks. And I don't know. It was, I just said to him at that time, like, I was so in my own head, I just couldn't get out of it. I think I was trying to make sense of it. And I know with sense making, it's, you haven't experienced before. So you're spending a lot of time just sitting there going, what is it? Why am I feeling like it? there must be a reason. What's the reason? And until I spoke to him about how I was feeling, I just felt a bit trapped inside myself.
Yeah. And did it consume you in the end?
It consumed me. Sorry, that was your question about my work. I said to him, so just as I know, and it does sound a bit cuckoo, but I would go to I don't know if that's, if I can say that term anymore, if it's accepted. I apologize if it's not. But I would go, say, have a client meeting in the city. So I'd meet with a potential client and we would have, say, a coffee and would talk about, you know, some of the programs that I offered. And then as soon as I would leave, for the whole time I would travel home, I reckon for a few hours after that, I'd come back to my workstation. I'd do what you said you did, but I'd just stare at the screen and I knew I had to get work done. But the whole time I would just replay that conversation over and over and over again. And I'd be them. So I would imagine I was them and I would be critiquing me. And I'd be like, I shouldn't have said that. I wonder what they thought about me when I said this. So I was over-analysing the situation. And then before I'd even go to one of those meetings, I would over-prepare. And it wasn't just because I'm prepared anyway, I'm quite organised. I'd over-prepare and work myself up and I'd get quite anxious. And through that process, I didn't even know, but I found out that I was experiencing social anxiety, and I'm actually a really social person.
Yeah.
And so I had this extreme social anxiety, which I think had developed last year. And that's why. And as soon as I knew, as soon as I could be labeled, I actually felt so much better. I thought, this is okay. Like, now I know what it is. I can do something about it. That's where the cognitive behavior therapy was amazing, because it's about helping you come up with the strategies to manage that and the awareness. So that's what I got out of that therapy, was being aware when it's happening and then saying, okay, what can my strategies be to bring me back down? But knowing that you're not going to completely get rid of it either. But gosh, I tell you what, I'm 100% better than where I was at last year, that's for sure. But maybe people didn't recognize it. I don't, other than my poor husband.
But see, that's the thing, you don't, like, I wouldn't have said that. Like, when you told me that yesterday, I would not have believed that. If you just had said, look, I'm, you know, being diagnosed with social anxiety, I'd be sort of going, you sure about that? Yeah. And I wonder whether that's the face that we put on to mask the issues that are going on in the background.
Yeah. And I think too, I felt like, I told you yesterday, Corey, my husband, came home one afternoon and I said, so he's a builder and he's dealing with people all day and managing situations. So he's got, you know, physical contact all day long. And he'd come home and I'd just want to suck all of his energy out of him by talking and connecting. And I wasn't getting what I needed. And so then I'd get frustrated at him. And I remember one time he came home after I'd had a good day of thinking about why am I feeling like, you know, I'd already connected with Beyond Blue and had discussions already. And I said he came home one day and I said, there's something wrong with me and I don't want you to fix it, because I felt no one could fix it. I actually believed that no one was going to be able to get me out of that thought process, because it was locked away in there. And so he couldn't do much because I wouldn't let him help me. But there were actions that I had to take myself. So as soon as I recognized, and I reckon I suffered for 3 months feeling like that, not as long as you did, but before I was like, no, there's something not right here. I've actually, and no one can fix it except for me. Yeah. So what are some of the things that I can do to fix it? So, and the cognitive behavior therapy was only one thing that got me back on track again.
And did you find that, and because I know I did this, once it was labelled or diagnosed or whatever you want to call it, it was almost like then we can put a plan in place to do something about this.
Yeah. There's a solution now.
Yeah.
Now I know what it is. I know now how to treat it.
Yeah. How did you feel when you found out what it was? Did you feel relieved or?
I was surprised. Because when he said, so they can't diagnose you, but he did say, look, some of the things that you're saying you're experiencing are aligned with what people with social anxiety feel. Now, a year before that, one of my daughters was diagnosed with experiencing anxiety, and I went along to those sessions with her as her parent. And I remember the psychologist was saying to me, and do you find that, Mum, that you feel like that too? So I feel like she knew it before I did, because I was quite anxious about my daughter going through that herself. And then a lot of the stuff that my daughter was experiencing, I said, yeah, I feel like I do that too. But I didn't think I had anxiety. I knew I was, a bit more highly strung than some. And I liked things in order a bit more than most people. But I was surprised that it was social anxiety, because once I'm connected with someone, I love being around people. But when it's people it made sense though, when it's people I don't know, I get really anxious about what happens if the conversation dries up. And then while I'm talking, I'm thinking, I pre-plan 100 questions in my head while that conversation's happening. As soon as there's a bit of silence, I throw another question in. And that's part of social anxiety, as I've been told and as I've read a handbook on it. But as soon as I read some of the stuff that I was doing in a handbook around social anxiety, I was like, that is exactly what I do. And so it was a bit of surprise, but it was like that releasing the pus of the earth. I actually felt a weight off my shoulders. I thought, oh, now I can fix it. I'm not going to be like this forever. Because I'd heard, and obviously in the work that we do, we advise employers about their responsibility for psychological health. So I knew that people aren't stuck with, don't have to, aren't in that, in the depths of depression or anxiety. Well, some people aren't all the time. You have waves of it. Yeah. So I thought there's an opportunity for me to come up for air here now. And I just got really excited. And then about that, and I just thought, gosh, what can I do now? I was really focused on the goals to get me there. I was like, okay, give me a challenge. What can I do to overcome it? So.
Yeah. And how would you say you are now?
So much better. But like I said, the cognitive behavior therapy was only one action. And I think that where you can, obviously, to try and reach out to people, who care about you and will support you through the journey, but they can't fix it. You actually need to do things for yourself. And, but for some people, I know they can't get there either, but definitely going to the cognitive behavior therapist was really the framework for me feeling better. And then I went and did things like, he got me doing a social anxiety test. So he said, what's something that you want to do that you feel, would bring on 100% anxiety? And I said, well, I wanted to learn to do boxing my whole life. My dad used to box with me when I was younger. And I said, I've always just had this passion for it and I love watching it. I don't sit there and watch it all the time, but if it comes on, I actually quite enjoy watching it. And he said, well, why don't you do it? And I said, because I don't want to go to a class and then that person think I'm silly. I don't want them to think that I'm not good enough and I don't deserve to be here. So that was one of my challenges, to do it. And I'm still doing it today, and that's a year on. And it brought so much, like it was a goal for me. And she was amazing. She's, 5-time champion, and she's just, really boosts you. So I picked the right person to go to. I found a passion that I never knew I really had because I thought I'll go along and I probably won't like it and I'll be too stressed about what she thinks. But I did that. I was telling you yesterday, I was doing what you were doing. I was just sort of stuck in my workspace and hating it. So I got rid of my chair because it was stopping me from getting up and moving around. I got a standing workstation instead. I was already exercising, so I continued doing that with the boxing on top. And then I went to university because I think where it was for me, the significant change in my life was I have 3 kids, and for 13 years, I've had one of them at home. Last year was my first year without one of my kids at home. My youngest started school. So then I found myself while I was working at home, I was by myself, and I didn't have my little companion with me who, I only work part-time, and you're always busy with your kids. So you don't have time to think about things yourself. So I decided for that year of transition to sign up to university, and I just did one subject of a course, and it got me out of the house. I had a massive social anxiety attack about that on my first day, but I loved it, and I got so much from it. I met all these amazing people from all over the world. There's a lot of international students, so people I wouldn't usually connect with that I found, common grounds with, and every Friday I'd look forward to that, and it was great too because it was a situation where I really enjoyed the learning. So I didn't enjoy school that much, and university I liked and I did okay, but I was like getting top marks in this class because I was the nerd sitting up the front asking all the questions, and I'd come home and I'd do my assignments every week, and it just really gave me a zest for life because I gained back some independence, I think, after that 13 years of little humans at home. So it was a combination of all of those things that, but I do feel much better, but I'm the same as you. I'm fully aware, and I do have moments where I dip down, but I'm aware, and I've got to think back to those strategies. So.
And I keep my strategies here. So if I don't know, I just feel if I need to read them, review them, go over them, that's, they're not that far away.
Yes, yes.
Because, as you said,
sorry, dog's barking in the background.
I'm very aware of the situations.
Yes.
So,
I remember the therapist saying to me that, he said, one of the biggest benefits of, not the benefits, but a positive is your awareness. If you've got awareness, it means you can take a breath and then to put those strategies in place. If you're unaware, you are just like maybe you were for that 2-year period, you just trudging through with that mud, and it's a slow and it's a hard path. But as soon as you're aware and you know what it is and you can recognize it, I think it makes a huge difference.
Oh, yeah. And then particularly if you have the other step of having a strategy to go with.
And there's so much information now. I mean, I remember jumping online before I signed up for that free cognitive behavior therapy. I jumped on Beyond Blue, and I think it was Beyond Blue, and I did a self-assessment. I was like, how good's that? You can just jump on. We're so lucky. We've got so much information that's free. Sometimes it's scary because there's so much out there you don't know where to go. But it's good. So, but anyway, I think did you want to have any final words? I think that's been a good conversation.
I think it's been good, and I think too that for other people who might see this, it's important that I feel in the coming months is that you maintain that social interaction, that contact with people, whether it's, through Zoom or whatever.
Yeah.
But keep it with your work colleagues, and probably, if you're going to have a weekly meeting like this, then, you know, you spend sort of the first 10 minutes just checking in with everyone and seeing how they are. And
Yeah.
so you can get some sort of normality around the meeting, things that you would normally do.
Yes.
You know, how's life been? It's, you know, so what's been happening this week at home, Amy? What have you been up to? And so you can, feel like you still have that connection.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. No, I agree. And I've heard some great things that some companies are doing too. But yeah, people also need to keep connected personally. And I've seen and spoken to a lot of people that have said they're connecting more with their friends and family than they ever have. So it's nice because we're usually so busy. You know, so busy just with our daily lives, and it's a good opportunity to reconnect with people. So, and it's, I mean, we are limited at the moment, but hopefully we sort of, when we come out of all this, we appreciate that face-to-face contact so much more when it does.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we might finish it there, but thanks, Dan. I think it's nice to talk about that sort of stuff.
It is.
Yeah.
And then you're not alone.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's true. Absolutely.
It's true.
All right. Well, hopefully, I mean, we can obviously do other topics as well, not just mental health, but it might be worth us continuing on with some other topics just about general, you know, health and well-being or health and safety through this time. I know you've been on a webinar this morning, and so have I, all about, you know, ensuring people's health and safety through isolation. So we might be able to come back with some more tips and info just to share as well.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, Dan, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, bye.